Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday. It's already a month since our friend Watanabe was with us. Now he's back, keeping the studies of now the book of Genesis book, and it's good to have you here. Good to have this partnership with PESP, and welcome, Roberto. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine, Esteban. Thank you for being here with you all again.
Yes. We're looking forward for
Mm.
this study, this moment in which you give us more clarity about this interesting book, but tough book, Genesis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do the initial prayer. Also, before I want to say good evening, Paty Oliveira, Maria Marlene Machado, good evening. And for more other people who didn't put the name here, but good evening. I hope you all are okay and ready for our lesson, today's lesson. So I would ask everyone to raise up your thoughts. Let's connect with our mentors of this show. Ask them to enlighten ourselves, to give us what we need in terms of strength, courage, wisdom, resilience, courage in order to overcome our tasks, our complete our mission, and grow as a person. So may we have enlightened our speaker today. So be it. Amen. Okay, good. First things first, let me try to hide it here. Okay, I think you can see the deck, my
Yeah.
friend.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, so off you go. Thank you. I'll be here
Okay.
in the background.
Thank you, Esteban. Well, hello, everybody, again. Today, we are going to proceed with the study of this last book from Allan Kardec, Genesis, Miracles and Predictions According to Spiritism. And today we are going to study chapter 11 of this book, which talks about the spiritual genesis. So, how we as spirits were created by God, and why did God create us? So, that's what we are going to see today. And so, let's start by this first slide here, uh, where Kardec starts by talking about the spiritual principle. So, the spiritual principle is not the spirit, individualized spirit as we are, but is let's say the intelligent principle. We as spirits, we are an individualization of this spiritual principle. So it's like when we talk about matter. So we have the universal fluid, and then matter is or the bodies that we see in nature are individualization of such matter, right? So the same is here regarding the spiritual principle. And the spiritual principle is a corollary of the existence of a God. So since God exists, then as a logical consequence, we as spirits also exist. And we exist as an individualization, like I said, from this spiritual principle. So we have studied in the Spiritist book that God has created two main elements of the universe: the intelligent principle, which is the same as the spiritual principle, and the material principle or universal fluid, like I said, right? So, and then what Kardec says here is that we could no more conceive of the supreme intelligence, which is God, reigning solely over brute matter throughout eternity. And we cannot conceive more than this than an earthly monarch, king from earth, reigning solely over stones throughout his life, right? So it means that if God is we say that is the supreme intelligence of the universe, a logical consequence of this attribute of God would be to create intelligent beings also, which are us. So that's the kind of a comparison that is being done here. And by the other hand, we also could not conceive of a supremely just and good God creating intelligent and sensible beings, which are us, to consign them to nothingness after a few days of uncompensated suffering. So, meaning that God, it would not make much sense to God, for God to create us as mortal beings. And so that's why we are, as spirits, we are immortal. So that's what we can understand by this sentence here, right? So uh, the idea of the perpetuity of the spiritual being, the immortality, is innate in human beings. So it means that at the bottom of our conscience, we have as an innate idea that we are immortal. So it exists within us as an intuition, Kardec says. And to the intuitive idea and the power of reasoning, Kardec says, Spiritism adds the sanction of the spirit phenomena. So what Kardec is saying here? He's saying that uh, we have intuitively this idea of that we are immortal beings, but with the Spiritism, this we acknowledge that this is not only an idea, but we have the sanction of the spirit phenomena, meaning that through Spiritism we have the communications with the spirits, right? So beings that are not living here on the earth, but on the spiritual realm. So by communicating with them, we know that life goes beyond this corporeal world. So that's what been said here, right? So spiritually proves by such communication with the spirits that if they are there and they communicate with us and they are not incarnate on the earth, meaning that they are immortal, right? So we are immortal because when we pass away, we just go to the spiritual realm until we come back again through the reincarnation process to Earth. So, so that Kardec says, it renders, Spiritism renders precise and definite what used to be a vague and abstract idea. So I have an idea that maybe I am immortal. No, by having this opportunity to communicate with the spirits, then I don't have just a vague and abstract idea. I'm sure, right, that we are immortal. And so the spiritualists show us that the intelligent being acting outside of a matter, who are the spirits, right, in the spiritual realm, and whether after or during the life of the body. So we as spirits, we are acting, we are incarnated spirits, we are acting now on this corporeal world. But when we leave this world through death, we go to the spiritual dimension, the spiritual world, and we continue to act there. Right? So that's uh, is what we can understand by this sentence here. And God also has created, besides the spiritual principle, God has created the material world as well as the spirit beings throughout all eternity, meaning that the creation is eternal. So that we have from one side, no, again, we have here the two elements of the universe, right? The spiritual principle and the material principle. And it is the material world that must furnish uh, to us, spirit beings, with the elements of activity for the development of our intelligence, meaning that by having this life that we have on the material world, by struggling to survive, to get what we need, then we develop our intelligence and also our morality, right? So that that's why it's so important, the existence of the material world. Doesn't mean that we don't evolve on the spiritual world, right? Because we we also evolve there, but we need these two phases, let's say, of our life as a spirit. Part of our life we have in the spiritual world, and part here on the corporeal world. And progress is the normal condition of spirit beings, and relative perfection is the goal we must reach. Right? So we are all progressing through this life in the corporeal world and also in the spiritual world. And such progress, the target that we have in front of us is perfection. Right? So that's what we must reach. And perfection meaning development of our intelligence and our moral sense. Then, how does the spiritual principle unite with the body, with the matter, which is our body? So, the body is the envelope, an instrument of the spirit. So, we are a spirit. We are not something material, right? So, but we control this body that we have now as incarnate beings. And this body is the instrument of ourselves as a spirit. And the spirit perfects, develops, and completes the organism to the degree that it feels the need to manifest new faculties. Meaning, for example, that let's say thousands of years ago, we are much less intelligent than we are today. And at that time, our brain, for example, um, should couldn't could have to be like our brain are today. It could be more simple, right? Because our intelligence was much more limited than today. So as long as the spirit is evolving, the body that it utilizes as an instrument also evolves, right? So that's what we can understand by this sense here. So our body manifests new faculties according to the development of us as spirits. But since the body is exclusively material, it undergoes the vicissitudes of matter. So, because the body is material, then we are exposed to disease, for example, right? To sickness. We are exposed to accidents and so on and so forth, but to hungry, to certain kind of things. So that after functioning for some time, our body, it becomes disorganized and decomposes. So that is death, right? When we get old, then our body tends to be disorganized, tend to disorganize, and then we die, and then our body decomposes, and the elements that compose today our body will compose new elements on nature. And then we go back to the material spiritual realm, only with our perispirit, our spiritual body, and then until we We have some time there, and then we come back again to reincarnation to occupy a new body. So uh, let's talk a little bit about incarnation of the spirit. So due to its spiritual essence, the spirit cannot act directly upon matter. It needs an intermediary, meaning that we as spirits, we are not a material being as spirits. But we have this body, which is a material being, right? So, and how can something that is not material act upon something that is material? Right? So we need an intermediary, and such intermediary is a kind of a fluidic envelope, or what we call in Spiritism a perispirit, which is, in a certain way, Kardec says, an integral part of the spirit. So, meaning that, for example, when we are here incarnate, we are a spirit which are connected to uh, this corporeal, to this body that we have, connected through an intermediary, which is our perispirit. When we pass away, we leave here the physical body and we go to the spiritual realm with our perispirit. So that's why Kardec says here that in a certain way is an integral part of the spirit, because the spirit is also accompanied by his perispirit. And the perispirit renders the spirit capable of acting upon tangible matter, as well as all imponderable fluids. And it is also the vehicle for transmitting movement to the various parts of the organism. Meaning, for example, that if, for example, I decided to move my hand, raise my hand, uh, I, as a spirit, think about raising my hand, and then such order, let's say, goes to my body, to my physical body, through the perispirit. And then I raise my hand, right? And also, the perispirit enable us, enable repercussion within the spirit of the sensation produced by exterior agents. For example, uh, if I'm walking on the street and then I feel the wind, the wind which comes, right? A cold wind, for example, right? So I feel that windy and that is cold, like today, for example, here in São Paulo, and then such a sensation of coldness uh, impact our physical body and come to my mind, to my conscience, through the perispirit. So that's what being said here, right? So perispirit is intermediary between the spirit and the physical body in all senses. That's what we can understand. And when the spirit must incarnate, remember that the spirit, before incarnating, the spirit is also with his perispirit, his or her perispirit, right? Now he's going to incarnate. When he's going to incarnate, a fluidic tie from the perispirit, which is an extension of the perispirit, connected the perispirit to the zygote, right? So that's what incarnation begins. And under the influence of the vital principle, the perispirit is united molecule by molecule to the body that is formed. Actually, the perispirit is what commands the formation of our physical body. So that's what happens. Uh, that's why it must unite molecule by molecule. And when the fetus is fully developed after 9 months, then the union is complete and the baby is born to external life. Right? The baby is born after 9 months of pregnancy. By an opposite effect, it means when we die, when we pass away, such union between the perispirit and the physical body terminates when the vital principle ceases to act in our body due to this disorganization of our body. So uh, that's what happened here, right? Regarding incarnation and regarding the disincarnation, let's say, in the process. And the moment the baby breathes, the spirit begins to recover its faculties because during that 9 months of pregnancy, the spirit becomes like he was sleeping, right? So he's not, he or she is not conscious of himself or herself. And when he comes to the external life, then it begins to recover its faculties. And at the same time, that the spirit recovers its self-awareness of himself or herself, it loses the memory of the past, meaning that then the spirit does not remember anymore what was, for example, its previous existence. Right? So that such memory is lost. Right? But the spirit, we as spirit, we do not lose the faculties, qualities, and aptitudes that we have acquired in previous lives. Right? So such faculties, qualities, and aptitudes we bring you with us. So that's why we can explain, for example, something that we see anytime in YouTube or Facebook, right, or Instagram, such boys and girls, 3 years old, 4 years old, playing violin, playing piano like a professional guy, right? So how does this faculty come from? Right? It's come from previous life. So they were pianists, right, on the previous life. They were violinists on the previous life, and bring such aptitude with them. Although, if you ask them, they don't remember nothing, anything regarding their previous lives. Right? But the aptitude is there, the quality is there, right? The faculty is there. So that's why we can explain why someone has more. It's more easy for someone to deal with the mathematics, for example, while other has a strong difficulty, right, to deal with that. And but then, as well as soon as when we are here in the corporeal world, we do not remember, right, our previous life, the details of our previous life. But when we return to the spiritual life by dying, then the past, our past unfolds before us, and then we can determine whether we use our time in the during the incarnation well or badly, right? So that is the process of the progress of all of us as spirits. And now, taking humankind as its lowest degree of the intellectual scale, one question if that is the starting point for the human soul. The question here is, well, we were created by God, as we saw in the beginning of this presentation, right? So, were we created by God as human spirits already, or we as a spirit um, went through the animal kingdom, the rational part of the animal kingdom, right? So that's the question here. And then uh, Kardec says that according to the opinion of certain spiritualist philosophers, the intelligent principle, which are us, individualizes and develops by passing through the many degrees of animality. So, meaning that, according to these philosophers, we as a spirit has experimented, let's say, life in the animal kingdom. So that's what we can understand, right, by this phrase here. And then Kardec's opinion is that one must agree, he says, that this theory is in keeping with the justice and goodness of God, because it gives a reason, an objective, and a destiny to animals. Meaning that, suppose, for example, that we say that we as a spirit, we are progressing toward perfection, right? And but what about the animals, right? So do they also progress or not, right? Or are they limited? Right? They have a limit on in their progress. So if we think about the justice and goodness of of God, then the animals also should also progress toward perfection. So that's what being reflected in here, right? So that's the interest point that we are always talking in Spiritism. Um, but the spirit incarnation, meaning our life here in our corporeal body, is only transitory because upon leaving our body behind when we die, we live in the spiritual life, right, in the spiritual world, and which is the normal life, Kardec says. We live there during a shorter or longer length of time, right? So here is something we have something interesting because as we are incarnated here on earth, we tend to think that this is our normal life. And when we die, well, I don't know where I'm going after I die. And that's very, if I survive, then, well, what strange uh, place I'm going? No, Kardec says, there on the spiritual world, there is our normal life. So here on earth that we are like, let's say, something who traveled to another place, right? So so here is not our normal life. Our normal life is there. So there, and then he says there we also progress by utilizing for our advancement the knowledge and experience acquired during our corporeal life. So, meaning that everything that we are, well, for example, we are now studying Spiritism, right? So, in this present life here on Earth, when we go to this, when we pass away and we go to the spiritual world, all this knowledge that we have now, we keep it with us. Right? So that's why we say that someone that knows, for example, the Spiritism principles, the passage from earth to the spiritual realm is much faster and easier, no? From comparing to someone who has no notion, right, about the spiritual world. So that's what we can understand here. And also, as we progress morally, we dematerialize, and then we become more spiritualized. And the happiness is the result of such progress. So, dematerialize to spiritualize, meaning that we are less attached to the corporeal or thing of earth, right? And then happiness would be the result of such progress. We would not depend on such a transitory thing that we have in this corporeal world. Let's talk a little bit about reincarnation now, because we talked about you incarnating, being born, then passing away, going back to the spiritual realm, and then after uh, uh, some time there on the spiritual realm, then we come back again, right, to the spirit to earth through reincarnation, and then the principle of reincarnation is a necessary consequence of the law of progress, because to progress, we need to reincarnate. That's what's being said here, right? So without reincarnation, how can we explain the difference between the present society state, which is we now live in a civilized world, and how we can explain the difference of this world that we live today, although we have some wars, unfortunately, today, but and that of the times of barbarism, that then at that time you have a war every time, right? And everywhere. So today at least is restricted to some places and not all the time. And if souls are created at the same time as the body, those being born today as are as new and primitive as those who lived 1,000 years ago. So without reincarnation, we cannot explain, right, the progress of a civilization, because if each man which was being, or woman that was being born on earth would come for the first time, then we would never have leave the primitive the times of barbarism, right? Like Kardec says here. If we progress, is because we have reincarnation, and through reincarnation we bring with us all the knowledge that we have acquired in our past lives. So that's what we can understand here. And we also have this issue of emigrations and immigrations of spirits. Um, Here, we see that during the intervals between their corporeal existences, spirits comprise the spirit population of the globe. So, through death and birth, the two populations incessantly circulate from one to the other. So, every day, lots of babies are being born. So, this is a kind of immigration, right? From the spiritual realm to the corporeal world. And every day also lots of people are dying, right? So in that case is an immigration from the point of view of earth, is a is a is a emigration from the corporeal world to the spiritual world, right? So that's what happens every day in our life, right? So that's why Kardec says that there are daily emigrations from the corporeal world to the spiritual world, and immigrations from the spiritual world to the corporeal world. Right? And so this is the immigration, the notion of immigration regarding the interrelationship between the corporeal and the spiritual world. But we have also emigration and immigration from one world to another, because remember that one of the basic principles of spiritism is the plurality of the inhabited worlds, meaning that it is not only earth on this universe, right, we that are inhabited, but there are many worlds spread through this universe. And then and we can so that we can also have emigration, for example, from spirits who live now on earth to another world, right? And also we can have immigration from another world to earth. So that's what being said here, right? So this resulted in introducing entirely new members into the population of a globe. So meaning that even today, at this moment, we have in the world, on Earth, we have about 7 billion. Uh, the population is about 7 billion person, right? So among these 7 billion, we can have now some spirits that came from other worlds, right? So they are here together with us. We don't know that, right? Because we can have such information, but according to this notion of immigration, we can have that, right? So, and such beings from other worlds, they bring with them their intelligence and the intuition of the knowledge they possess. So, all the knowledge that they have, all the intelligence that they developed in that other world, they bring with them. Right? And if they are more evolved than us, then most certainly they will teach us, right, new things. We can, for example, explain at some point, well, the development, the big development of science, for example, what we call the breakthrough, may be the result of the work of some of such beings, right, coming from more evolved worlds to Earth. And in coming to Earth, they first it's not they first compose part of the spirit population and the spirit dimension, and after that they incarnate like the rest of us. Uh, so at as and when we have such migration and immigration between worlds happens all the time, but there are some periods when there are massive immigration, right, or emigration or immigration, and when does that happen? And that happens when a world reaches one of its periods of progress. And then when we get to that point, then mutations occur in its incarnate and discarnate population. So how that happens? So we have the explanation here. Those here on Earth, right? Earth, those who, in spite of their intelligence and knowledge, persevere in evil would be a hindrance to moral progress. It's something that is happening now. When we call about the planetary transition, we say that the Earth now is going through a planetary transition from a world of trial and expiation, where we have the predominance of evil, to a world of regeneration, where evil does not predominate anymore. We have in a regenerative world, we have a kind of a balance between good and evil. So it's not a good world still, right? But there is a balance. And then those who persevere in evil could not live in such a regenerative world, right? So uh, what happens is that they are excluded uh, from Earth in this case and sent to less advanced worlds. And there, on that less advanced worlds, they will use their intelligence and acquired knowledge because they bring that with them, right? So, and they will utilize that for the progress of that world, of those, the population of those world, right? And at the same time, there in that world, they expiate their past wrongs and intentional hardening of their hearts, right? So that is how, let's say, the divine justice operates. And in that case, so we have a kind of a emigration, right? So spirits, mostly who persevere in evil, are emigrated to another world, to a less advanced world. And also at the same time, we can imagine that spirits from a more evolved world will immigrate, right, to Earth in order to help us to evolve more rapidly. And at the same time that evil spirits depart the world they used to inhabit, in this case Earth, in my example, they are replaced by better spirits. So that's why we have a progress on that world, right? Because evil spirits leave that world and good spirits come to that world. So the the, the situation changes completely. And perhaps such new spirits are coming from a world less advanced, but although they come from a less advanced world, they have merited leaving behind that world. So for them was a progress, right? To come from that less advanced world to our world, for example. And for them, the new habitation would be a reward. And because the spirit population is in the spiritual realm, right? Has been renewed and purged of its worst members, the moral state of that world is improved. Our spirit population is not the spiritual, but also the corporeal, right? It's the total population of a specific world. And then when you have all the situation, then the moral state of the world is improved. Meaning that when that happens on Earth, then for sure we won't have any more wars, for example, like we still have today. we won't have conflict. We won't have killings, right? So such violence that we still see today in our world. So how is that done? Through this process that we have just presented here. So that's what uh, I had to bring today. Uh, we have an idea here of the spiritual genesis. And then next month, we will start a new topic from the book, the Genesis book. We will be talking about the spiritual fluids. The spiritual fluids is that kind of a fluidic material that composes our perispirit, for example, right? Our spiritual body. And that's what we are going to study starting next month. So now I'm open to any comments or questions you may have. Thank you. Esteban?
I'm here.
Okay.
So I'm waiting for some questions if we have. Meanwhile, good evening, Luviem, Yvette Daya. So thank you. Let me see more people here.
Right.
Uh, I
There is no
didn't
question.
didn't left the name. So far, no questions.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm doing. I think you are doing a good job.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, okay. So my friend, when is the next date?
Oh,
Next date?
next date. Well, let's see. Is 17th of September. 17th of September.
17th of September.
Yeah. We are going to study the spiritual fluid, maybe in two parts. So 17th of September, we are going part one. We are going to see part one, and then maybe October 15th, we are going to see part two because
Yeah,
uh,
it's long
complex
and
chapter.
complex. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, okay. No, no problem, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. We have no questions. Would you mind to do our final prayer?
Sure. Okay. So let's thank you again every month the help of the in support of the spiritual benefactors, which are always following us in this, let's say, this job that we have of divulging the spiritist doctrine. And we also thank Jesus for this opportunity to be here reunited in His name. And also, we are going to raise our thoughts to our God and thank Him for the opportunity of this incarnation where we can know much better about our condition as immortal spirits, the reason we are here on earth, what we are going, what we are doing here, and what is the purpose of our life, the sense of the meaning of our life. So thank you, Father, for this opportunity. So be it.
Amen. Okay, look. So once again, just confirming no questions here. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We'll be here next month.
Right.
So for those who are in Dublin this Sunday, we do not have any meeting. We will have our meeting next Sunday, 25th. And from 8th of September, we will have in-person meetings every single Sunday. So it's a good step forward and giving more option to everyone who would like to see our in-person meeting. Okay? So thank you all. Please don't forget at 80:30 we do have our virtual healing. So just go to our YouTube page and you see. There is no link. Just go there at 8:30. We will see the video showing up there. Okay. Roberto, once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity. I wish you a wonderful rest of your night and the rest of your week.
Thank you, Esteban.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.